Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Yena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata cha Pita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vedyat Ravidam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So are we still online, all the people on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have a book, Vinayak?
Yes.
Okay, so we are on the 14th chapter, 10th shloka. So let's review what we're doing here. So this is the yoga of the three gunas. What are the three gunas? Can someone remember them?
Yes,
Go ahead. Say it again louder.
Tamas, Raja, and then Sattva.
Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. What's tamas mean? Someone else.
Inertia.
Inertia. Any other qualities of tamas?
Depression.
Most importantly, illusion and delusion. Rajas. What are the qualities of Rajas?
Activity. Suffering.
Yes. So ambition, striving, comparison, competition, craving, all of those are qualities of the Rajasic mind. Sattva, what are the qualities of Sattva?
Action without any fruits.
One of them, yes.
Non-doing.
Non-doing in the mind, yes. And again, the principal quality of pure sattva, knowledge of the self, knowledge of what this world really is. And again, these are terms that are borrowed from Sankhya philosophy. So Sankhya philosophy deals with them in a macrocosmic sense. But here in Gita, we talk about them for the person, for the individual. So the mind moves through the play of the gunas. And Vinayak and Uma, we had the shloka in the second chapter where Krishna says, be you beyond the gunas and ever remain in the sattvic condition. Now, wait a minute. That sounds like a contradiction in terms. How can you be beyond the gunas and be in one of the gunas? It's very simple. the way to heal the mind is to get out of the mind. To stay in the viewpoint of the uninvolved witness. We call this Sakshi Bhava. Watching the mind move through the three gunas. And it will. Wake up in the morning and you don't feel well, you didn't sleep well, and your mind's tamas. Or you're just blah, 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 in your mind, oh, you gotta do this, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do this. Rajas. Sometimes we have these moments, we'll sit in meditation, and there'll be that click. Sometimes with an indrawn breath. Everything empties out. Satchidananda Rupa. Shivoham, Shivoham. And then, of course, the gunas mix. And then we discussed last week one of the most practical teachings in Gita. How do we take on the appropriate practice for our particular guna, our mind state? Shrunahu, listen carefully. We cannot take the mind from tamas straight to sattva. Won't work. If you're depressed, if you're shut down, if you're not motivated, if you're grieving and confused, feeling deluded, we have to move the mind from tamas to rajas. I was talking with a person on the phone. He got disappointed in a date. So his solution was, I'm going to go back to bed, sleep all day. Not effective. Tamas. So we move the mind into rajas, stimulate the mind with desire, with activity. Oh, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to give up our desires and stuff. Depends on what state your mind's in. If you're tamasic, do something. There's the big joke, retail therapy. There's nothing wrong with that. We'll get the mind from tamas into rajas. Better yet, save up, do some service. You might do something like clean a closet, straighten up your desk, call a friend and say, I'm in a terrible mood. You tell me your problems. Listen to them. Moving the mind from tamas to rajas. Now, all of our suffering is in the rajasic state. Most people, because of ignorance, deal with the suffering of the rajasic mind by shoving it back into tamas. The psychologists call this self-soothing. Oh, you're so upset. Here, let me fix you a drink. Oh, you're so upset. Here, let me cook for you. Oh, I'm having a terrible day. I'm going to binge watch Netflix. Had a fellow who was all getting in trouble at work. He's a little disaffected from his job. He has tendency to be on the tamasic side. And he spends 8 to 10 hours a day on his phone. Now, It's not very productive if they're paying you to work 8 hours a day. Got in trouble. So all of these are ways to move the mind from rajas back into tamas. The problem with that is it is always temporary, and frequently when you come down, when the tamasic moment passes, you've got more troubles than you went in with. Oh, I've got all these bills I have to pay, and I'm in debt, and I can't think of anything to do. So I'm going to go to sleep. Then you wake up, and more bills come in. Doesn't solve any of the problems. So when the mind is rajasic, we practice our karma yoga, move the mind from rajas into sattva. Moving the mind from rajas into sattva. Only in the sattvic mind is real investigation into the self possible. It's just theoretical. If you're not in a sattvic mind or a predominantly sattvic mind. Any thoughts on this before we move on? So the yogi wants to have her bag of tricks. The same meditation is not of value under all circumstances. So what you want to do is be able to stand back and witness your mind. Be honest, be authentic. This is my mind state. So when we're doing a spiritual practice, here is the rule of thumb. The grosser the mind, the more meditative supports we need. So if your mind is tamasic, self-inquiry may not be the right meditation. Maybe you need to do kirtan. Get together with some friends and chant the name of the Lord. That's an active meditation to move the mind from tamas into rajas. But if your mind is moving towards sattva, Jim, I just keep saying my mantra, and I just want to stop and just be in the silence. Yes! When your mind is sattvic, you drop the mantra. Abide in yourself. Very practical teaching. What to do to diagnose our minds. Now, why does Krishna say and remain in the sattvic state? Because the sattvic mind is the happiest mind. Not the tamasic mind, not the rajasic mind. Everything drops away. When we surrender to the now, we have santosha. What's santosha mean?
Satisfaction.
Contentment, yeah. All right, going on with verse 10. Arun, is this all making sense to you?
A little.
Okay. Is my accent difficult to understand?
No, I understand the accent quite well. I'm just not, I've not been, this is my first class. So
Okay. She's getting very deep. You hang with her when you get her back to India.
She always has been.
She's a good yogi. All right, going on.
Rajastam aschabhi bhuya sattvam bhavati bharata Rajaha Sattvam Tamas Tamaschaiva Tamaha Sattvam Rajas Tatha. Now Sattva prevails, O Bharata, having overpowered Rajas and inertia, Tamas. Now Rajas having overpowered Sattva and inertia having overpowered Sattva and Rajas.
So here Krishna is talking about this play of the qualities of the mind. The mind moves through the cycle of the gunas. And my example for talking about how it moves here in America, of course, we talk about pizza. Are they having pizza in India now?
Oh, yes, they are.
They are. Do you like pizza?
At times.
At times, okay. Here, everybody loves pizza. So all of a sudden, oh, I want pizza. Rajas. Bring me a Zachary's pizza. 45 minutes. I want the pizza. Rajas. The pizza comes. Hey, the guy. Box is on the table. You open the box. Oh, it's too hot. You get the pizza. You never eat a pizza with a knife and fork. Always folded. Pizza. Desire and object of desire become one. For a moment, my mind ceases its craving. Sattva. Then I eat the whole pizza. That's how I got so fat. And what happens? Sleepy. Tamas. And after a while, ice cream. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to have ice cream for dessert? The whole thing starts again. So as we watch the whole cycle of desire and fulfillment, we see Rajas, Sattva, Tamas. Now, it's not just a vicious circle. It's a spiral. As we come to see spiritual practice as something desirable, the overall texture of the mind gets more and more sattvic. So there is improvement. There is improvement. But as we watch the whole phenomenon of the satisfaction of desire, we see this play of the gunas. Rajas and is overpowered by sattva for a moment. And then that's overpowered by tamas. Then that's overpowered by rajas. And it keeps going on. The play of the gunas, the qualities of the mind. Always stay beyond the gunas. The teaching here is do not get involved with our mind states. Now, Fang, for example, has just, well, it's been a while now, but she did a Vipassana retreat. So, and you've done Vipassana retreats, Uma. Have you done them, Vinayak? Yes. So when you're sitting on the retreat, if joy comes up, or sadness comes up, or desire comes up, or sleepiness comes up, or blah, 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 blah. Motor mind comes up, what do they tell you to do?
Nothing.
Just watch it.
Yes, the teaching is the same in Gita. Gita just did it maybe 1,000 years before the Buddha. 500 years before the Buddha. So the practice is the same. Now, not just when you're in a Vipassana retreat, we want to take the same attitude through our everyday life. Witness the play of the mind. Now, some of us carry a lot of judgment about our thoughts. Oh, Jim, I have terrible thoughts. Oh, I'm trying to get rid of all these terrible thoughts. Anybody have that particular klesha, that affliction? What Gita says here is the way to deal with it, to heal it, is don't try to fight the mind. Get out. Don't get caught up in it. It's just a thought. Be it tamasic, rajasic, or something. I think I said this last week. Swamiji used to thunder, "Shut up and get out." Get up and walk out of the satsang. No. Get out of your mind. Watch the mind. Take on the practice of Sakshiba. All right, number 11.
Do you have a quick question on this?
Please.
For a person of wisdom, is their mind entirely sattva all the time, or is it such that they still go through the gunas, except there's no desires, it's just preferences?
Excellent question. Why don't you go there and find out and tell us?
It might take a while, Jim.
You never know. There is no point in trying to figure out or have ideas about what the mind will be like for the woman of wisdom. Because all you're going to come up with is some romantic idea. No matter what I were to tell you, first of all, you wouldn't know whether it's true or not.
Mhm.
And we don't want to have ideas about where it's going to be, when I get there, will this happen? We have in many scriptures
Mhm.
descriptions of the person of steady wisdom, the enlightened being.
Mhm.
Uma and Vinayak and I have been doing second chapter of Gita. Go to the last 18 verses of the Gita, second chapter. This is called the Sthita Prajna Purusha section.
Mhm.
Marks of the person of steady wisdom. Then what do? As Hamlet says to his mother Gertrude in the play, Hamlet, assume a virtue if you have it not. They are not only the marks of the person of steady wisdom, but they're also things you and I can practice. Is that a good way to avoid the question?
Yeah, that's a great way to avoid the question. Thanks.
All right, next verse.
Sarvadvareshu dehe asmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidya dvivdram sattvamityuta. When through every gate in this body the light of intelligence shines, then it may be known that sattva is predominant.
So when the mind is predominantly sattvic, the light of consciousness, this prakasha, shines through, and we can see the world without the superimposition of all our stories. Most of us do not realize that when we see the world, there's judgment and story going on. You walk through the park and you see a rose and you go, oh, that's such a pretty rose. Ah, yes, we had a rose garden when I was a child. Oh, my favorites were the pink ones. Oh, I can remember when my mother used to get the pink roses. Oh, and that reminds me of the perfume she used to wear. You see what your mind does? Or it may be, oh, roses. I can remember when my ex used to bring me roses, and then he dumped me. Roses, they're terrible. They remind me of what a horrible person he was. So what we're not seeing is a rose. So the predominantly sattvic mind, we just simply see it. So there's a implication for practice here. When we study Vivekachudamani, there's a very famous section called the qualifications of a fit student, being adhikari. There are four: viveka, discrimination; vairagya, dispassion. Then there's shama-adi guna, shama-adi guna, qualities of shama, etc. And the first three of that, there's six of them, are about tuning up the mind. Learning to not let the mind's shakti, its energy, gush out all over the objects. So if you're a young person, good-looking boy, good-looking girl goes by, no, bring it back. You get my age, it's chocolate cake. But keeping the introversion. This is called shama. Dhamma. An idea will come to my mind. Oh, I'd really like to go get this particular food from the store, or go cruise on Grinder or Tender, stuff like that. No, don't let the mind get pushed out from an idea from inside. And the third one, he says, is uparati. Uparati technically means sense withdrawal. If you've ever studied Yoga Sutra, you have one called pratyahara, sense withdrawal, same as uparati. But Shankara says the best uparati is when you're moving in the world and the sense organs stay in their sense centers. So you're not gushing out with attraction and aversion to all the objects of the world. So we can start this practice usually by doing very simple activities. When I was in the ashram in the Haight-Ashbury, I'd walk through Golden Gate Park. I'd practice just keeping the mind tuned up. You'd see a bush. No superimposition of stories. See a paper wrapper on the ground. You'd see some dog poop. You see the people playing baseball. You hear the sounds of children. Hear the sounds of traffic. Just let it all pass through. Classic images. You want to have a mind like a wicker basket. Let all the sense perceptions flow through like water. Takes intense concentration to do this in the beginning. In Zen monasteries, for the most advanced monks, they're usually given a task like the garden and raking the sand in the garden, or cooking. The beginners, they work in the gift shop or answer the phone because their minds are messes anyway. So, they can do all that. It's hard. It's hard. But you can practice it with just simple daily tasks. This is meditation in action. Any thoughts on this? Just seeing the world, seeing the experiences without the superimposition of the narratives of the past or projections in the future. Next verse.
Lobha pravrittiyarambah karmanashammasah karmanashamaha spraha rajasyetani jayante vivriddhe bharatashabha. Greed, activity, undertaking of actions, restless longing, these arise when Rajas is predominant. Oh, best in the Bharata family.
So these are just a short list of how to diagnose the Rajasic mind. Basically, it's when the mind is under the throes of kama, craving, spriha, longing, Krishna, thirsting. That's the word the Buddhists like to use. Then we have the results of that. One of the things that we find about the satisfaction of desire is the law of diminishing return. You had a chocolate yet tonight? If you're like most people, rarely does one person eat one chocolate. They want another, another. What happens if you eat the whole jar? Oh. You go out, you have one cocktail. Then you have another, and another, another. Then you black out. And then you don't know where you woke up the next day. And you have a terrible hangover. The law of diminishing return. It's the addictive nature of the mind. Too frequently, one is too many and 1,000 is not enough. I had this fellow in San Diego I was working with, and he was at a job that wasn't real ethical. They were making a drug, kratom, I think it's called. Is that a drug? Anyway, you know about it?
Yeah, it's like an opiate, isn't it?
I'm not sure what it is. But the boss was doing cocaine and there was a lot of shady business. This guy was a biochemist, but he got paid really well. But he was a yogi. He felt uncomfortable in this. And he was calling me up on the phone. What should he do? What should he do? And he said, you don't need to work here. You've got great skills. And he says, but Jim, I just want to wait until I'm financially secure. And I said to him, dude, you own 5 houses. When's there going to be enough? So when the mind is under the throes of a rajas, greed sets in. What was the next quality?
Activity.
Yes, the compulsion to do. Now, practically speaking, who here has had the experience maybe after the retreat? You get back to your ordinary life and you think, oh, I'm going to sit today. I'm going to sit for an hour. You sit down, and after 10 minutes, you are so squirmy. I just can't do it today. And you get up and you get active in your life. Who's done that one? Rajas impelling us into activity. In the mind, it feels like restless and discontent. Makes me want to do stuff. To deal with that agitation. Next quality.
Undertaking of actions.
Same idea.
Restless longing.
Yes. We've kind of hit all that. This, and you can go on and on with the list. Envy, jealousy, all part of the rajasic mind. Next verse.
Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha eva cha tamasyetani jayante vivriddhe karunandana. Darkness, inertness, heedlessness, and delusion. These arise when tamas is predominant, O descendant of Guru.
So aprakasha is how he's talking about darkness. Prakasha means light. Aprakasha means the opposite of illumination, the opposite of knowing stuff. So when we talk about delusion and illusion, let me give you an example. Years and years and years ago, I don't think any of you are young enough or old enough to remember this. In the old-timey days before online banking, you paid your bills by writing checks by hand. And at the end of the month, you got the statement from the bank. And it was the statement and about your canceled checks. Anybody here remember that? Okay. So, and they would come in a number 10 envelope, shaped like the television. Now, if you got the smaller envelope and through the cellophane window, there was a notice that was pink or sometimes green, depending on your bank. What was it usually? I bounced a check. So one day, true story, came home, got my mail, put it on the kitchen table, going through it, and there's this envelope. Oh, and I used a swear word. I threw it down. I was so upset. I'm not very good at balancing a checkbook. In the old-timey days, you had to do the additions and subtractions and stuff by hand. So I looked at my checkbook and I said, did I do wrong? And there were 3 checks that I'd written recently. So I called them up and said, I just got a notice from my bank that there's insufficient funds. Your check may be returned. Please go ahead and redeposit, and I'll pay any fee. So I called the 3 people and told them that. Finally, I sat down, had my cup of coffee, I opened the envelope, and I looked at the notice, and I'd made a mistake on my last deposit. I had $5 more than I thought I did. Where did the bounced check go? Where did the notice of insufficient funds go? It was never there. I made it up. And from that illusion and delusion came the suffering and all that sort of stuff, all rooted in a lie. I imagined it. That is Thomas. In our modern times, have you ever had anybody send you a text in capital letters and you say, why are you yelling at me? Oh no, I just had the cap lock on. We misunderstand, we misinterpret. Now at its deepest level, Thomas robs us of apprehension of our self-nature. Illusion. Then the illusion. I think I'm my body. I think the world is out there separate from me, and it has joy giving and misery producing qualities. Such is the deepest power of Thomas. We call that Avarana Shakti or Avritti, veiling power. It produces avidya, ignorance. Aprakasha, beautiful word. We think of the light of the self as prakasha. I don't see it. And from it comes all sorts of problems. When I mistake something, illude. I see an illusion when I delude. That is Thomas. Any questions about that? Next one.
यदा सत्त्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देह भरत तदोत्तमविद्धं लोकानं लान् प्रतिपद्यते. If the embodied one meets with death when sattva is predominant, then he attains to the spotless worlds of the knowers of the highest.
So now he's going to talk about what happens to the subtle body of a person depending on which guna predominates. Now, oh dear, my friend Harry, when he died, he had a brain aneurysm. He was unconscious for 36 hours. Thomas, poor guy's going to come back as a lizard. No, it's not like that. We build the set of our soul through a lifetime. If someone has cancer, should they take morphine to ease the pain and make for an easier passing? Of course. You don't get a gold star for being awake when you die. It's not that simplistic. But let's talk a little bit about reincarnation again. So, what is it that reincarnates? It's the antakarana. It's the subtle body. In English, you hear terms like transmigrating soul. So I like to use the image of a teacup with tea in it, and a tea bag. So the physical body is like the teacup. So if I go downstairs and I order a tea and the cup has a hole in it, I'll say, oh, quick, get me another cup. This one's got a hole in it. I pour the tea into another cup. That's what reincarnation is. The subtle body is like the tea in the tea bag. So depending on the set of the soul, which we prepare through a lifetime, not just at the moment of death, that will determine where we go. So if you've spent your life doing yoga, studying scripture, working on character building, even if you don't realize the self, but your mind is predominantly sattvic, what the scriptures say is you will go to Swarga, heaven, Amaloka, has different names. And at the end of the age, liberation will take place. Other scriptures will say, oh, don't worry, you'll come back, but in the home of very pure and holy sages. You take your yoga with you, take it up, and then attain liberation. Don't worry about this last moment of death. In other parts of the Gita, we have this very early Vedic teaching about the first 6 months of the year, which is the northern path, the path of light, where you get liberated. But if you die in the second 6 months, the southern path, the path of the ancestors, the path of smoke. Remember this part of Gita? You have to come back. Nonsense. Swamiji died in August, second half of the year, fully liberated soul. So we have to take some of this with a grain of salt. So if you spend your time cultivating the sattvic mind, the disposition of this subtle body will be toward liberation. Next verse.
But how do we cultivate sattvic mind? I mean, but
Do yoga. It's that simple. You want to start, go look at the yamas and niyamas in the Yoga Sutra. There's 10 of them. Live purely, tell the truth, cleanliness, purity of mind, the interior things. Work on all these qualifications of the fit student. Do your spiritual practices, both at the level of our behavior. You know, I simplify it. Just try not to be a jerk. That goes a long way in this world. Be content with what you have. Do your best not to judge other people. These are things you know about, don't you, Uma?
Yes, I know.
This is how we
All
cultivate.
these are physical things which you should take care of, eating and maintaining your body or maintaining your mind, maintaining your emotions,
Yes, all of it. All
all
of it.
of it.
Now, if you do ritual, that helps to purify the mind if you do it properly. If you do ritual to get what you want, that's Rajasic ritual. If you have a new business and you've installed a Lakshmi Murti and you hire the pujari to come and do a Lakshmi puja so you get lots of money, that's Rajas. But if you do a puja because it's the way you express your love for God, it's a sattvic ritual. And those of us who may not have those sanskaras as growing up, the Westerners and things like that, we can cultivate sattva without the need to do those traditionally Hindu or Brahminical practices. It's not essential. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
All right, next verse.
Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangishu jayate tatha pralin stamasi mudha yonishu jayate. Meeting death in Rajas, he is born among those attached to action. And dying in Tamas, he is born in the womb of the senseless.
Yes. So basically, the human body is an instrument for garnering experience and the satisfaction of desires. It's a vehicle. It's like a car. So here in the Bay Area, if I want to go to Hawaii, I can take a boat, I can take an airplane, but I cannot take a train or a car. Wrong vehicle. If I want to go to Las Vegas, I can drive, I can take the plane, I can even take a train. Can't sail a boat to Las Vegas. Wrong vehicle. So why do you have the body and the life that you have? Because at this deep soul level, this is what you wanted, to garner experience and to satisfy desire. So what the scripture is saying here, for future lives, where you end up will be the result of karma. Actions which produce impressions which create desire. I'm going to get a little technical here. Basically, we have three kinds of karmas that we're dealing with in this work. Sanchita, agami, and prarabdha. Sanchita karma are the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify. So, for example, let's say 2 lifetimes ago, Fang was living in Japan and she just thought the sumo wrestlers were absolutely fabulous. She had the strong desire, making this simplify. Oh, it would be so much better being a sumo wrestler. Everybody would give me applause and I could eat anything I wanted. Well, I'm sorry, you just have the wrong body this life. You want to be a sumo wrestler? or Vinayak. What if you had a desire a couple lifetimes ago to be a Russian ballerina? Wrong body. Hmm?
Bummer.
So that's sanchita karma, karmas of the past, which have yet to fructify, to be able to express themselves. The gummy karmas are the karmas of the future, which we set up in this lifetime. So, did you say at one point you played the guitar or something? No. Oh, who was that? Okay. But most young people, they have desires to be in a rock band. You ever in a rock band as kids? It's not going to work. Okay. But in this lifetime, if I develop the desire, it would have been so much better if I had been smarter, taller, more handsome or more beautiful, a man, a woman, gay, straight, would have been so much better. And we develop a passion which we can't fulfill this lifetime. That's the agami karma that will impel us into a future life. I made this very simplistic. It's actually far more complicated. Prarabdha karma is the karma of the now. So the family you were born into, the body that you have, the aptitude you have, the interests and desires that you have, and the life that you have, this life is your prarabdha. So what happens? What the scripture is saying is, for the future lives, these passions, these desires, whatever they may be, set up where we're going to end up next lifetime. Now, what about the realized soul? What about the woman or the man of realization? Both the agami karma and the sanchita karma is roasted at the time of realization. Why? Because the effect of realization is, I was never born. I'm the space in the cup, not the tea in the cup. I will never die. I was never born in the first place. And happiness is the mind abiding in the self. It's not in the world. That's just a pale reflection. So all the sanchita karma and the agami karma, the karmas of the past, the karmas of the future are gone. That whole belief, I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, meaning if circumstances were different. So all the woman or man of wisdom is left with is the prarabdha karma, the karma of this life. Now, we look at the Mahatma. Say, Swamiji's prarabdha was to be a Jagat Guru, run around the world. Ramana Maharshi, his prarabdha, he just stayed in Tiruvannamalai, Arunachala, didn't do much of anything else. But actually, the sage has no prarabdha because the mark of the person of wisdom is they're not identified with the body. So, Fang, are you a glass of water?
No,
So if I had a coffee cup there, are you a coffee cup?
no.
See what I'm getting at? You are other than any object. So if the body is tall or short, male or female, it's not you. So from the standpoint of the realized soul, there is no problem. It is just a way to explain why different sages behave in the world in various ways.
So sages are always sattvic. They have got
Well, it depends on what you think about it. I mean, they see what is, but Swamiji only slept 4 hours a night. Guess what his experience was in deep sleep? I know nothing. Same as you. Towards the end of his life, he would be very sick. No energy, a lot of pain. But inside, he was just empty. He was beyond. All right,
Joe, I have a question on this.
all right.
Can you have a desire in a prior lifetime to be a realized person in this lifetime? Like, how do you get the prerogative to be a person of wisdom?
Why do you think you're here?
Touche, touche. Because the other question I had was, I
You,
guess,
let me finish.
Yeah.
It's very important.
Okay.
You could not be in this class studying Gita except for hundreds of lives lived intelligently. Now, if I were to go on Meetup and say, we're going to have a tantric sex workshop, teach you how to have better sex. Hundreds of people. We're going to give you secret mantras to make you wealthy. These are practices you can do. If you do these, you'll be rich. What's that guy's name? Tony Robinson, I think.
Robbins.
Tony. But it's like prosperity stuff.
Yeah.
Fabulously popular.
Mm-hmm.
Swami Tapovanam, my grandfather guru, he would only work with 1, 2, or 3 students at a time. Because so few people are ready. In the old-timey days, there were rules. This Advaita Vedanta was only for the Brahmin caste and only for men. Women couldn't study Vedanta. And it's not necessary to keep people out because the teaching itself has its own guards. Only those who are ready can enter into this world.
So it's not that your prerogative karma changes. It's not, for example, let's say I did want to become a Russian ballerina. This lifetime I have the body and qualifications to become a Russian ballerina, but then somehow the Vedanta entered my life and I no longer desire as much to become a Russian ballerina. This karma was
And in
project
the end,
set
that's all
before.
part of your karma. But if you started off doing the Russian ballerina thing, Shankara has a wonderful image. It is like the person, the man, of course, he was misogynist in some sense. The hunter who's out in the forest and he sees a rustle in the bush. And he goes, aha, tiger. And as the arrow is flying toward the tiger, The tiger moves, and oh my God, it's a sacred cow. So we launch the body into this life with a whole bunch of desire and aversion and tragedies and successes. And then at some point in our life, Subhecha comes. It's a wonderful word, auspicious desire, auspicious wish. We're free. May take us a long time to figure out, how am I going to be free? Until finally it matures into mumukshutva, a burning desire for liberation. And when your mind is sattvic enough, a teacher will appear.
Very interesting. So it sounds like the prarabdha karma was set even before the body comes into existence. Interesting.
Prarabdha karma describes what is.
Can it ever be changed?
Yes. Karma can be blunted through prayer. But even that's part of your problem.
So it's free will, but no real free will. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
All right. Next verse. I love this chapter.
Karmanaha sukrutasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham jnanam tamasaha phalam. The fruit of good action, they say, is sattvic and pure. Verily, the fruit of rajas is pain, and the fruit of tamas is ignorance.
So our states of mind impel us into activity. The quality of the mind manifests through our vasanas, which then create desire, which creates action. All sorts of very simple things. Like a lot of people, they go to the psychotherapist to work on self-esteem. You know what yoga would say? Do you know how to build self-esteem? Do esteemable actions. Really simple. So the sattvic mind impels us into noble actions. Noble actions help create a sattvic mind. A rajasic mind creates more suffering. Two kinds of people in the world, a bhogi and a yogi. Bhoga literally means enjoyment. But a bhogi, an enjoyer, wants happiness. But he wants happiness by satisfying as many desires as possible. The end result of bhoga is more desire. A yogi also wants happiness, but she lives life endeavoring to reduce the number of desires entertained, because it's the desiring itself that hurts. Tamasic person, very deluded. They think what they're doing is going to alleviate their pain, and all it does is create more. Classic case is the alcoholic or the addict. Very Tomasic way to live. Lost their job, they've lost their home, they've lost their family. Oh, their last friend is the bottle. Another friend says, why don't you just give up the booze? And they say, if you had my problems, you'd drink too. This is the only friend I have. It's the only thing that makes the pain go away. Not realizing the cause of the suffering is the booze. And that's just an extreme form of what we do with tongues. Okay, which verse are we on now?
We finished 16.
Finish 16, we'll go on to 17 next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.